Welcome to today's information session. Before we start, a quick reminder that this workshop is being recorded. Please note that while this workshop is open to the public, it is for staff to provide information to elected members. It is not a forum for debate or decisions. It is also not a forum for the public to provide input into decisions or bring other matters to the attention of council. If a member of the public does want to provide input, please talk to staff and they can help you any way to have your say. We've got a couple of apologies. Councillor Goff, Councillor Johansson, Councillor Kewen. I haven't seen Mel. Can't throw away. She won't throw away. Okay. So the first one we've got is Bede is up there going to introduce the first one, the annual plan 25-26 briefing on Three Waters, or annual plan in general for a start, is it?
Yes. Yeah, kia ora and welcome, your worship and councillors. Yes, look, today the purpose of this briefing is really to give you an update on, or to give you more information around Three Waters and parks. There will be two sessions on each of these. The next one is on the 15th, but what it is here is to go through briefly the capital program and some of the changes that were set out and discussed as part of the long-term plan. So this here is year 2 of the LTP. Annual plans are not generally a revision of the LTP or amendments. They're really tweaking and recalibrating because of changes that occur over time. Looks like here I am by myself, so it must be time to talk about money. And so, look, just recapping that slide, which captured we put up last week. So in the LTP, the projected rate increase is 8.45%. That was what was signed off. The Burl Inflation Index, and now that is different to the CPI, but it is the Burl Inflation Index for the sector. They have advised us that in addition to what we built in to the LTP, we should add another 1.1. Later on, through the discussions that had with the Parks and Three Waters, you'll note that there are some carry forwards, there are some LTP actions that are carried over. The effect of those is captured in those two lines, 0.1%, 0.08%. So we have a current unadjusted position at this point of 9.73. Budget build is going on, but that's just really to set the context for it. Are there any initial questions, Your Worship, before the Three Waters team? It looks like there is.
That'd be Timothy.
Thank you. So CPI at the moment is 3.3. It's gone down from 4% in March, I think it was. But Bill is saying that we add 1.1, so the actual inflation of CPI will be 4.4.
Yes, right? And Russell's keen to speak
or we
to
should,
this point, so I'll allow him.
Or we should allow for 4.4, even though the CPI is 3.3 at the moment.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. That's correct. Understanding this is not CPI. Rural are reflecting CPI to be have a 2 in front of it, like a 2.1, 2.2 for the outgoing 3 years. We'll bring that. I think it was on the previous slide that we had. Yeah. A week ago we had that. This is the cost to local government sector, which Rural are commissioned specifically to look at. Yeah.
So CPI is 2 point what, although it's
2.2, 2.1 within that realm. I'll confirm that.
Okay, because I was reading today that it's at 3.3, but
no, this is what Rural is projecting to go out. Okay, yeah. So CPI is a measure generally looking back.
Yes,
Rural are reflecting. Okay, what's it going forward? So there's
cool. Okay.
Yeah. So what we're trying to emphasise is that Burl produced the numbers for the sector, and they are different to the CPI that is generally put out in the media.
Just want the right numbers.
Yeah.
if we had a crystal ball.
No, look, we all want that, councillor, don't we?
Yeah. Later on, at the end of this, I just want to bring up something.
Can I just check, at the time of the LTP, what was the number that we were factoring in that we're now having to look at raising because of Burl's new estimates? Because I would have thought it would have gone down rather than up over that time.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's a good question. 4.1 is a figure that's in my head, but I'd need to confirm that. But that's, I'll just ask Bruce. 2.9.
It was quite a low number. What the bill put in was quite low because they use a different methodology for determining the cost indices for the sector than is used as the basket of consumer goods for the CPI. So it is a different methodology that's used. I'll just if you give us a moment, we can find it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just while we're looking that up, it was quite low by Burrell when the numbers come out last year. We were a bit surprised by that, but we used that and applied that. Yeah.
So maybe Bill got it wrong last year, and
well, I think also things move on, don't they? Yeah.
So I would have thought to move on downwards. Interim though, but hey,
Hey, fire away, guys.
Yes, look. So that was really just the introduction, and we to frame up for you the cost pressure that exists and that will need to be managed in terms of the annual plan. So with that, Your Worship, we would move into the three waters.
Excellent.
And they can then start on their presentation, go through that detail.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So we'll launch into three waters briefly for the annual plan. So this section covers the overview of the budgets that were set out in the LTP for year 2, FY 25-26. It also contains some actions carried over from the LTP and our staff advice. And also, we haven't in the slides got all our capital program, because there's, if I recall from the long-term plan, we had over 700 line items. So we're just covering off some of the major projects. Summary for the capital program. You can see here, last year we delivered 174 million. That was 99.9% of our budget. Now on the bottom line, you'll see carry forwards and bringbacks. Last year we had some difficulties delivering in the stormwater space due to consenting. So you'll see later on that we carried forward quite a substantial amount of funding from the stormwater area. But what we did was we accelerated in the water supply space, because the water main renewals are easy to deliver. So we accelerated those to bring up the spend in the area. Hence the reason we brought back about 6.3 million of water supply funding into last year, but we obviously pushed out quite a bit of stormwater funding that compensated. So that's how we managed to achieve that that spend of 99.9%. This year, delivering the budget is 210, currently forecasting 92% delivery, but we'll be pushing hard to get that up again to in the high 90s, which I'm confident that we can. And next year, there's a significant jump in the following 2 years up to 277 million, 327. That's mainly driven by, as you can see, wastewater. We've got some sort of large wastewater projects, Akaroa, and the CWTP treatment filter restoration projects, which are big spends. Moving on, so key projects carry forward. You can see they're mostly stormwater due to the challenges in consenting. All those projects are now underway in some form, either in design or some construction. So that's the main reason for carry forwards. Wastewater capital program proposed changes. So the first one is we have 2 projects over in the peninsula, Akaroa wastewater and devotionals. We're proposing that we combine those together. Now that the devotionals treatment plant will be decommissioned, and will be conveying the devotionals wastewater to the new Akaroa wastewater treatment plant. Second one, just the devotionals treatment and disposal, the current resolution council is to irrigate the Akaroa golf course. We have some significant challenges there and also budget challenges. So there will be a paper coming to council to for a decision on whether we increase budget or change scope. So I'm just holding that here as a heads up. There's a couple of projects we're just moving around. Some pump stations we're bringing forward and delaying due to various reasons, but they are going to be completed in the next 3 years. There's an item called wastewater new mains. Now, this is a response to intensification growth and also the pending impacts of Plan Change 14. So where we are, there will be particularly around our smaller pipes, our 150 mils, where we will have to increase them to allow for additional capacity. That what we'd do there is we'd combine that with our renewals program. So when we go to renew a 150 mil, we'll take the opportunity to upsize it. So the extra overcost would be funded from this budget here to fund for that. So the renewals, we wouldn't be dependent on renewals because it's not for renewals. The additional funding we look to in there is only in the order of probably 3 million. We have additional funding in the later years. We don't have any funding for the next 3 years, so we're looking to fill that gap. So it allows us some flexibility when we do a renewal to upsize the pipe. Onto CWTV biogas storage upgrade. So that was a project that should be in construction now. 3 weeks ago, we cancelled the tender. The tenders came in and they were significantly over budget. Our budget, double the cost. So we're looking at ways we can rescope that and then come back to you with some options. Now, we're looking to improve sludge thickening at the plant. With the current temporary setup for activated sludge that's treating the wastewater at the moment, we have high sludge volumes coming through. We have some projects that were in place in the later years. We can see one there, the dewatering belt press will bring forward 4 years and get that underway. And also looking to increase the size of the polymer plant. Now we'll do that out of existing budgets, and that will reduce operational costs at the plant because we can get thicker sludge, which means less sludge to deal with. Wainui wastewater treatment plant. Currently, there's a historical issue there that the plant sits on land that we don't own. So we'll get, fund a project to look at options there to either purchase the land or alternatively, worst scenarios to relocate and come back in the next LTP with a solution or options there. There'll be also a number of rephasing of budgets based on our forecasts that we have for our existing projects that are ongoing. Moving on to major projects next year. CWTV restoration will be top of the list. In terms of rephasing, there might be, once we know where we're sitting, we'll be rephasing, and we may be reducing the budget next year and pushing some budget out the following. I think we had 36 million in there next year. Akaroa wastewater treatment and reuse scheme. That's currently in design, looking to go out to the market next year to start those works. So on pump station pressure main, that's 40 million. That will be in construction next year. Biogas storage upgrade, as I said, that's we're just revisiting that to understand what we're going to do there, but we do need to do something. That is a significant project regardless of what we do. The rest, Rickenham sector, that's in construction at the moment. It's a sizable installation of a 600 mil sewer around by the university. Grassmere storage, that's I think 35 million. Rectification renewals. And wastewater is dominated by large pipes the next 2-3 years. What I mean by that is there's Buchanan's Road, Wairaki, obviously Rickerton. They're all large diameters, so we're doing less in the space of 150 mil small pipes, but focusing on some large pipes around the city, so they'll dominate in that space. And the last one, which is the main one, is Fitzgerald Ave brick barrel renewal, which will be Digament project in the order of about 20 million. So that's currently in design. Moving on to water supply proposed changes. The only ones, obviously, we'll be rephasing a number of projects based on forecasts that we have in front of us from our teams. Obviously, there's no net change to the budget here. We're just moving money around to where it should sit. There are two projects there. Two items there: water main renewals and sub main renewals. They were came out of LTP action in terms of increasing those budgets, which is obviously something that can be discussed. Water supply major projects for the following year. Obviously, water supply main renewals is always a large one that we drive pretty hard, and there's plenty to do in that space. Water pump stations, we got new water pump stations or renewal pump stations. They are probably going to be a major feature for us in terms of major works in the water space, and the new chlorination equipment that we install around the city. That's quite a long program. I think it's in the order of 15 years, but we're kicking off, starting off this year and rolling forward. Flood protection, capital project changes. It's just rephasing of budgets in that space. There's quite a bit of rephasing to do based on our current forecasts that we have of our projects, but we're not looking to propose any changes to the budgets. Major projects, you see the list there. They are the flood priority works. There's some treatment facilities, and also the last one, which is the surface flooding reduction program, which was added in the long-term plan, and we will be coming to do a briefing in the next.
It's in the next 2 months. This is where we come back to present a decision matrix for council to prioritise them.
Yep. Will that be like before Christmas or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stormwater capital proposed changes, similar to wastewater. There's impacts due to intensification, growth, and also Plan Change 14. This would be looking to opportunities to purchase land for further retention and treatment, having a fund available to do that when the opportunity arises. The team have suggested a fund in the LTP in the order of 19 million, but we'll discuss that further. Erosion sediment control, there was an action that came out of the LTP, so some budget was removed in the last LTP. There's action to look at consulting on increasing that budget. If we were to do that, we're recommending for the next few years, I think 3 years, $1 million per annum, starting from FY28. There is a project in place at the moment, so that's program funding. There's a project at the moment that that has drawn down from that program that's in play currently, so that's why we're saying not till FY28 that would need more funding. And rephasing of budgets based on the forecasts of where our capital projects are. Stormwater, there's only one. When I pull out major projects to look at in terms of big spend next year, that's probably where the big spend is. There is quite a few other projects to go over multiple years, but that are relining and openway waterway renewals is the major project in that area. Thanks for questions.
Right, sorry, I'll start first. When you say relining, sorry, Tim,
yeah,
that's relining open drains and
correct.
The wooden ones.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Naturalisation.
All right, and just for my daft head, biogas storage, is that? I thought we burned all our biogas into generators to make power. Are we going to actually store some? So I just
no. So we also have a flare. So when the generators, obviously, there's times when we're producing more gas than we can burn it through the generators. So it's flared off. And that project is also to upgrade some pipe work that is nearing its end of life too.
Okay. And lastly, the Fitzgerald Ave brick barrel, that's one of the ones that was done in the earthquake where it was lined with some plastic stuff inside it.
In certain locations, and that's been causing some issues.
Yeah, I'm sure, because it's not a be all and end all putting that in sort of sticking plaster on it, isn't it? So, so that's to renew it, rip it out, and put a new one in.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Okay. We have Tyler, please.
Good team. Excuse me. The first question is around replacing existing assets and upgrades. So if you're replacing existing assets, are more of a like for like, right? A 150 or for a 150, etc. Okay. So would that also be upgraded in terms of the way that it's able to perform?
In terms of a pipe, I mean, there's not much to it. Is, you know, if we're replacing 150, 150, I wouldn't say it's upgrading to how it performs. We just replace it with modern materials.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it more increases the longevity of the asset. Okay. The next question is around scope 1 Riccarton. And you're doing some great work around there with the wastewater interceptor and the island wastewater treatment. Is there going to be anything in Riccarton that's scoped to being pushed out dependent on PC14?
Pushed out in terms of...
So, for example, if Island and Upper Riccarton and all of those areas that are supposed to be zoned, if, for example, the council does go the way of not progressing with further infrastructure, would that change the Three Waters plans for future asset renewals, etc.? Because you've got a line here that actually talks about the growth within the area. So if the council did decide somehow on slowing that down, would that then push your capital project out somewhere else?
It wouldn't affect our renewal program. Our renewal program is based on condition of the assets,
yep.
But any change to any growth would have an impact on whether we were going to upgrade something.
On the upgrades.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind these things are on the ground for 80 odd years, we have to make the call if we're renewing a 150.
Yeah.
If there's going to be growth at some point in the future, then we'd make the call as to go over and above and upgrade the pipe.
Gotcha. Great. Thank you.
Sarah, please.
Good, thank you. Couple of questions. The potential additional funding for mains and sub-mains renewals that was indicated in the LTP, if we go for that in the annual plan, does this quantum, it gets us to the end of the backlog within the life of the LTP, but does it get us to our level of service targets that are new in the LTP? So under 20% by 2030 and under 15% by 34?
You're referring to
the
leakage.
Yeah.
I don't, I mean, we don't renew pipes based on leakage.
No.
So they're based on conditions. So I wouldn't say it would get us to that target.
It's more likely to be the approach we're doing now in terms of finding those major leakages, being more strategic about that. That's more likely to get you to those targets. You will pick up stuff through the renewals program as a matter of course, but it's more likely to be achieved through the targeted leakage program.
Okay, so the targeted leakage program, where does that sit within the year 2 of the annual plan?
Well, most of it's operational because they're just leaks and repairs, as opposed to if there's anything major, if it was a long length or a valve or something else, then yes, we would do it under CapEx.
Okay.
And we have reactive CapEx available in water supply as well, don't we?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and so where do we get the opportunity to look at the program level budgets, the operational spend? So this is all capital that we're looking at, but we know that operational has a really large impact on rates. Where do we look? When are we going to be looking at that as part of the annual plan process?
We could bring back a snapshot of that, but ultimately the major operational spend is either running our treatment plants through our operations division or through the maintenance contracts with our contractors. So they're lump sum payments. It's a fixed contract. We can let you know what that covers.
Yeah, I just think it would be really good if we could have a look at the operational budgets, not just the capital budgets.
And we could give you an indication of where the reactive spend is trending as well, which is over and above the lump sum.
Yeah, which is really good because that additional reactive is really important. So the goal of reducing the backlog of renewals and the leak program would be to lower the reactive maintenance costs and lower the OPEX.
That's
so
correct.
there's a really strong relationship between those.
Absolutely.
And getting an idea of the impact of the extra capital spend on our reactive maintenance is a really important sort of quantum price to have.
And I think it'll be quite a long, slow tail. It'll take a while for those to realise those. But yes, it's we'll see if we can get some trending on those reactive spends.
Thanks. And the asset management maturity process, so in that report that was about a year ago, where are we at with the asset maturity and our knowledge of our assets and the program of work that was happening from there to understand our water assets?
There is an improvement program that the team have put together that we're monitoring. So in terms of the question about knowledge of assets improvement, so there's put in a process that we can grow that knowledge going forward and how we capture that data.
So can we have at the next Three Waters report, could we have an update on that asset maturity stuff?
Do you want it just on Three Waters, or would you prefer the strategic asset management team come and give you an overview of council as a whole?
Council as a whole would be good because that's what the report was on originally. And it's just like there's no report backlisted in the upcoming program of work. So it'd be really good to have that. Thanks. Thank you.
Brent, just interestingly enough, and given I talked to the contractor who's doing a lot of the work around pipe laying around Takaha streets, and they're putting the stormwater or the sewer or whatever they're doing. They said, interestingly enough, we're digging alongside the old water main because they are going to do the water main as well. And he said every second joint was leaking, but you didn't know because it's under the ground, it's just soaking away. So little, if it's a couple of litres a day, if we know where you are, so it's good that these things are being done now. Just one question, when you say, and it's sort of following on from what Tyler said, you'll go from say 150 sewer to a 225, I'd imagine one day, but you only do that when it needs replacing, you renewal, you don't go and do it as of right?
Yeah, I mean, unless there's if we were having overflows that's triggering it, then we would, proactively.
Okay, so in theory, some of the money that is paid by DCs for the intensification will be going into a little bucket somewhere in the top of your drawer that you use for doing these renewals if it's intensification that's caused these pipes to be larger. Is that?
Yes, that over amount that we talked about should be it'll be growth driven, so we should be putting that into our calculations for DCs.
Okay, excellent. Tim, please.
Thank you. Two questions. First, Wainui, was that underway prior to amalgamation, if I'm correct, that wastewater? So the decision to put it on leasehold or whatever was made by the Banks Peninsula District
Correct.
Council.
That was.
So when we have that, could we have a lessons learnt? Because it does seem that, when we put staff time into these projects to fix them, if it were owned, we wouldn't be wasting staff time trying to negotiate or looking at all these problems which we have now because it's on leasehold land. Is that?
I don't think we need a lessons learned for that. We don't do it that way.
But it would be good just to know for future if ever there is a decision somewhere in 10 years or whatever, and someone goes, no, we can save some money by leasing the land. God forbid we do that. So if we could, or just whatever's easiest, but I do think we need a heads up on that.
We will be coming back to you about Wainui anyway, I think. So we can incorporate it with that.
The second one, when you mentioned with regards to upgrading to PC14, the 150 pipes, etc., and estimated 3 million, can we have an idea of you're going to absorb that in through just shuffling the budgets around? Is that correct, or are we going to be facing a request for further funding in the?
We'll work with finance as to how we put that in, but it should be DC driven, which have a neutral effect. But we need to start collecting for those projected growth areas so that we can do that work.
Okay. Just Mary, with the information or the changes to the resource consent, which may allow councils to refuse development in certain areas. we could kind of get some information on that in the future, a briefing on that, which would be really good, because as it was described in the news, we keep allowing building in dumb places, which is not a technical term, I know, but it would be some that's shared. Thank you.
John's nodding his head, so he'll be onto that, please.
Okay, Tyrone, please.
Good. Just on Akaroa wastewater. So, notwithstanding the astronomical amount of money that is budgeted for that, so I think I heard you say that there would be cost increases. I think I heard that earlier. No. Okay, well that's fine. So, but that's like that scheme is priced into the LTP, and so will have zero impact on rates in the coming year or three, right?
Correct. The advantage of combining the two schemes is you've got one less plant to operate, so you end up with efficiencies that way. But it's that was the first point in that slide.
Yeah. No, cool. So yeah, so just to be clear, it won't be driving an increase in rates at all.
There's no change to the budget.
Thank you. Cool. Thank you.
Done. Mark, please.
Thank you. Really interested to see that PC14 planning for some new mains. Thinking about my beloved little Hornby and the impact of PC14 on some of the main roads being Amy's and also across into some of the residentials potentially. Is that sort of part of that thinking, is to make sure that the mains there are up to spec, ready to cope with that intensification, or will that be done reactively later?
Well, in terms of wastewater, we're, like I said, at this stage, we're looking to include it into our renewals program. So where we go to renew a pipe, we'll look at it and say, well, this now makes sense that we upsize it. Where we do it proactively is we would identify that a pipe is constrained, that we couldn't allow growth, so we'll go in there proactively. But I don't think there's any proactive.
Was Buchanan's upstairs?
No, because we still don't understand the quantum of PC14.
Yeah.
So this is mostly reactive, and taking the opportunity of where we are doing renewals, we always check.
Yeah.
So we do a spot check of what we think will happen, and then based on that, make a call to upgrade.
Yep. And with those renewals, you'll also be working together with transport, that if they're doing a renewal of a road, you'd be checking your pipe work under there to make sure it's not getting renewed.
Hopefully get it right every time.
Good. Thank you.
Tyler.
Kia ora, Mark asked the same similar questions, but I'm referring back to the OrbViz tool, and it has here in one of them, particularly the where is it? The Wainui, Peveril, Matipo, George renewals, and in the end it said, if necessary, upsize assets that are deemed inadequate based on current flow profiles or as required by future demand. So there's two questions within that. The first one is, what I'm hearing is you're proactively upgrading if required. Is that correct? So you're assessing it, you're going to put in, say, a 150, but you may say it needs to be upgraded to something else while you're there. What's the cost difference between, well, what's the cost difference in installing the smaller main in comparison to the bigger one, and how does that get implemented into the plans?
I couldn't tell you exactly the cost difference, but hypothetically, say if we're paying $1,000 per metre, and it's in a deep area, quite high water table, then the extra over could be, I don't know, $400 a metre or something. Or
so they're budgeted for, is what I'm asking. I think I'm asking, they're already budgeted for within your current.
No, so our budgets at the moment that we hold, our renewal budgets, so they are based purely on renewing that pipe as the same size, not increasing. So the reason for us asking for additional budget, well, first of all, we shouldn't fund it from renewals anyway, because it'll mean we can do less renewals.
Yeah.
And also has a different funding stream. Yeah.
So remember that Gavin said earlier, there was 2 or 3 reasons, things that we look at. So what you just said there may be performance related. The system may not be performing and needs upsizing anyway. We've got this growth factor, potential growth factor of PC14, and then we've got the asset condition as well. So it's a mix of everything, but now with new areas of town that are able to be intensified, it's time to have a relook and allow for the upsizing for that third reason.
That's a good point, because what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing a replacement of existing assets, but so you have the wastewater picked in all the way through to Seto, which is potentially 6 to 10 stories for that area, which I feel like we're going to be going back to it to upgrade it in due time. And I'm wondering why it would be a replacement instead of an upgrade. And then I'm also seeing here, there's the Wainui Peveril Matipo again, which is going to be really, really will seem to be looked at as really high developing. So I'm wondering if we could maybe try and align that in terms of our planning.
So I know that any renewals we've been doing recently, we have been looking at whether they need to be upsized, and we have in some cases taken the opportunity to upsize it, and that's been funded out of renewals because he had no other funding. And so this is really making this correct, where we have a funding stream that comes from the right area.
Gotcha.
So we haven't, you've definitely looked at any renewals we put under a microscope from the planning team to they tell us if we should upsize.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And lastly, before you've got more to go, haven't you? Have you?
No, but just a point, Mr. Mayor. So when we get to this point in the program, we have already had to draw down. We budget at program level. We've already drawn down years 2 and 3 into the project. So there is a full list of projects sitting there under all of these categories that Gavin's spoken about today. So we can circulate that if you really want to know which laterals and bits and pieces we're doing. It is there, but you get to this point in the program and it's already, interdependencies are worked out with transport. All of those factors are already fed in. So if you do want us to circulate the program, we can do that.
I think they do have the capital program was
sent
out.
Yeah, it was sent out.
Yeah.
Okay, just one final question for me. You said, and I understand, of course, you had to back off on retention ponds and stuff because of that little water take hiccup that Pecan had, but we've got over that now. But you used some of that money to spend more on water mains last year.
Yeah. Well, we just moved money around, so we brought
so you got
water
more
main
of that
money back.
Oh, not quite.
Well, sort of went like that.
Yeah, we rephased. So the water main funding that would have been set out this year, for example, we just use the term loosely, but water main money was spent on water mains, and the stormwater money we couldn't spend has been left for stormwater.
Yeah. That's one. Yeah, good gold.
Can I just clarify? So the team are coming back, and are we picking up the priority, and that is for OPEX, discuss the OPEX budgets that we've said, and they will also circulate the projects that are in the program. Is that right? In the current program. Is there anything else for the next presentation? So OPEX and to circulate the program, not necessarily to discuss it unless issues emerge for the next one.
And if there's anything else occurs to you in the meantime, you have that Q&A tool running. You can send some questions through.
Excellent.
So that's right. It was to give an opportunity. There is another bite of the cherry on the 15th, so that if this seeds thoughts or questions, we then...
Excellent. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah. So...
actually, on that, we do, if it's okay, we do need early input if anyone's suggesting any changes, additions, or what have you, because we are looking at building this at the, over the next few weeks. So if there's any, please declare them now or on the 15th.
In that case, the thing is the LTP, we passed a resolution saying that we wanted to consult on whether we bring forward the money to get rid of the backlog of renewals on our water supply. But as a council, we could decide ahead of time to do that work rather than waiting till the consultation and then putting more money, if you like. So it's just that when do those kind of discussions happen, if that makes sense?
Okay.
So I think it's an LTP, it's a change over a period of years, but we'd probably only do the year 2, year 3. So between year 2 and year 3, it would be $25 million if we wanted to get onto the backlog of 27 total for water mains and sub-mains renewals. So if we were able to make that decision ahead of time rather than consulting on bringing it forward, then it gives staff planning time.
Yeah, so, well, maybe, so you're quite correct through you, Your Worship, Councillor Templeton, that's right. There was a point in the LTP about whether or not we accelerate the renewals program. Now, my understanding, and Gavin will correct me, is that deliverability isn't really the issue. So when we come back, once we've got a better idea of the budget build and the numbers, we thought we would bring back the options around that issue at that point, because we see it largely as a financial issue rather than a capital deliverability issue.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it had been factored into it, but it's probably a bit premature because we're still doing the budget build at present.
So. Yeah. But I mean, it would be good if we were able to indicate as that goes through that we'd like the opportunity to really focus on that water work.
Accelerate.
And it might be that, you know, if we wanted to do it within budgets, that there's a couple of things, like, for example, if we deferred year one of the surface water stuff, that would probably cover those, but, you know, mostly cover that budget, that kind of thing. It's just that, like, a little bit of street surface flooding as opposed to the water mains.
We'll look, is there anything else like that? Because it's better to have it out now and then the team can start working on it rather than get surprised at the last minute. So
it's probably not so much a suggestion for me, but just in terms of, I mean, you all know this stuff inside out. Is there anything after we've struck the LTP that you think we're missing from the capital program and water? From you're the technical people that actually understand this stuff. What do you reckon? Is there something you would want to include? Acknowledging our financial constraints, obviously.
Yeah, really just because Plan Change 14, the effects of that, we're still working through that. It's really, that's the big change for us as to what that impact might be. So that's why we're foreshadowing it now. Because you're just not going to know exactly where that growth's going to be. So we need to be able to react to it with our renewals program. Yeah, so that was the big one for us. And in terms of the renewals, and Councillor Templeton's right, we have been slowly ramping it up, so it gives the market time to respond and gear up as well. So that's why we sort of haven't suddenly gone, give us another $100 million. You've got to give the market time to respond.
Okay, so we're pretty good in that space. In terms of any contract changes, are we able to get a bit of an update at some stage around, if we're thinking about deliverability, anything we're doing with our long-term contracts as well?
You're talking the operational contracts versus...
Well, both. We was one we were talking about a while ago.
That was the looking at a different method of doing reticulation renewals. So we're still looking at that. Okay, and
so we're not there yet.
And we can wrap some of that conversation into the infrastructure working group conversations as well.
Yeah. Okay.
As to how we deliver.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. So now we got Sarah and then Tyler.
Thanks. Just a quick comment around Plan Change 14. I mean, this is a plan change that we're doing now. It's not the only growth plan change that we're going to be doing. Yeah, we're likely to do another one in 10 years' time. And if we're putting infrastructure in for 70 to 100 years, then I think that putting in infrastructure for growth now makes sense, because in 50 years' time, more than just the Plan Change 14 areas will have grown, if that makes sense. So I think that planning now for other areas that might be decided on in 30, 40 years' time is the wise thing to do, rather than having to renew and stuff then.
And that's the dilemma that Michelle's in. She's got her crystal ball sitting on her.
Yeah.
So the project in the LTP is based on our...
Come up to the mic.
More that spatial plan stuff rather
the projects in the LTP is based on the growth model that aligns with the LTP.
Right.
We cannot respond to PC14 in what it would enable, because in most cases it would lead to dysfunctional infrastructure. So we can upgrade up to a maximum and as aligned to the formal LTP growth model, and not really beyond that.
Is that because other things are contingent on it as well, or?
Because we're uncertain where the growth is, and you can't increase a pipe diameter above what you can reasonably service in terms of flow. There comes a point when the pipe will become not functional if it's just simply too big, and we may be spending money where it won't be needed. So it's a very delicate process, but at this stage, what I can say is that our growth model and the projects in our LTP aligns with the LTP growth model and not servicing PC14 per se.
Right. Yeah. So that's a bit of a distraction, the PC.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Michelle. Brilliant. And Tyler, and then we'll move on. Thank you.
Well, that clarifies things a lot. So you actually renew, and once the growth's there, then you upgrade. Correct? So you have to spend it regardless.
Or if we get the timing right, we'll do it at the same time. But it's a matter.
It's a difficult juggling activity.
It's a juggle.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, but what we got to be careful is, and some people watching this will say that, oh, every pipe we've got's overflowed and it's a bloody disaster. And I know it's not, because there's a lot of stuff out the other side of town which the pipes are extremely large, and so we're on top of it, but we're just renewing it as we go if we see fit. So it's not a disaster, everyone out there.
And if you remember, you've got two significant major projects in there. You've got the Riccarton Interceptor, which is balancing things. You've got and some of these are for different reasons. You've got the what's it? Selwyn Street, is it?
Selwyn Street.
I mean, that's to reduce overflows, but it's also moving from one catchment to another. So it's the juggling that Michelle and the team do. It's just trying to get the balance right and get the load spread across the network.
Yeah, that pipe that's going up through Hagley Park and up Snasser Street wouldn't be anywhere near capacity yet. That new one that we put in about
the southern
Western Interceptor.
Southern Relief.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's why you're getting Selwyn Street pumping into it to take pressure off that one to fill that one up a bit more, because a quarter empty pipe is not a good look, because it produces gases and starts playing with the concrete.
It's more like half now already, not quarter, but yes.
Yeah. Room for growth.
Okay.
So I wouldn't need to ask for a provised list on upgrades if you're already doing it, right? You're already.
It's part and parcel.
But they're doing it anyway.
Yep. Great. Thank you.
Okay.
What did you just say? A quarter empty pipe is no good.
If a pipe, the little bit that I know, shall we? If a sewer pipe is running at a third full all the time, it's better to be running at 2/3 full, because the gas that comes off the waste does not, concrete, that is not good, is it, Michelle? Somewhere in that order?
Yes, we prefer, but yeah, we design our pipes to flow 70% full. But there are cases where excessive inflow and infiltration will make the pipe flow 100% full. We can't have pipes flowing less than 25%, because then we do have problems not just with gases, but also with self-cleansing. So we have a lot of solids remaining in the pipe and they're not functioning then properly. Wow. So it is a balance of where we want the pipe to flow. That's to make sure
interesting. So you wouldn't want to upgrade to a bigger pipe too early, because it would be running it below.
Exactly. Oh, you can't do that.
Yeah, there's places around in Christchurch where they install flush tanks to drop fresh water into the main to keep it clean, which does make sense.
Mm-hmm. Now I've opened up a can of worms. Kelly.
Do you keep data on the capacity of pipes and how much they're being used?
So we have a wastewater model that helps us to direct that. We have historically calibrated that model only every 3 years. We've now moved to a different regime where we're doing it catchment by catchment, and we're doing short-term flow monitoring catchment by catchment every year to try and get a bit of a better heads up in terms of what is happening. But my team also actually looks at all the building consents. We have a map that shows us how many building consents is coming through in which areas, and based on that, we actually do planning decisions even outside the model to try and be a bit more reactive.
Oh, that's fascinating. Thanks.
Just interestingly enough, Kelly, when pumping stations dump into, if you're pumping along and you dump into a manhole which is in gravity to go along, a lot of the time that manhole, which is concrete, has to be lined with epoxy because of the gases that are created when it drops and it sort of stirs itself up, it eats the concrete away. So there's a lot of stuff goes on that we don't know about. It's interesting. Okay, escape while you can.
Can I just, I think it's worth noting that the challenges with stormwater due to intensification and clean change forwarding potentially is a lot different to wastewater. Do you want to just have a quick?
Yes, kia ora, Kevin McDonald. Yeah, I just thought it would be worth mentioning the fact that looking at intensification, the implications there on stormwater are a bit different to the ones for wastewater in particular, because we already have a situation where we're running close to the wind in most of our developed areas of the city, where intensification is likely to occur, where we're running close to the wind with regard to the consent allowable levels in our rivers under the design flood events. So we can't afford actually to get the water, the extra water that will appear through intensification from individual sites to the rivers. So we have to work out ways of retaining it. And that's one of the drivers behind what Gavin outlined for that 19 million as a start to take steps to secure land basically for facilities which will be needed to retain that water before it gets to the pipes and then to the rivers. And coupled with that, as I've indicated, there are consent-related issues there, both in terms of the quantity and quality that will result from intensification. To give you an idea, you know, in some of the parts of the city that we're looking at intensification, the allowable impermeable surface area is in the 40% sort of range. That will go up to 70% plus with intensification. And that has a direct bearing on the extra amount of water that for a given event that we're going to see. And when we build in factors like climate change with the effects that will bring, then we need to be making some forward provision. So we haven't got the full data yet. Our current modelling, new modelling that we're doing, shows that we are running, as I say, very close to the wind with regard to our consent compliance. But with regard to the quality aspect, compliance with the consent won't actually get us to a point where we're improving our waterways, which is a stated objective of the council, which I'm pretty keen to plan for.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mary, with that, the changes to the resource consents, you know, when it's also areas that are, you know, like under pressure. We've got areas that are high water tables, etc. With that intensification, that could push it over. We do need to look at how we and are we allowed now to say no in certain areas because of the environmental impacts and those resource consents which we can hold us to, which will become impossible, and by the sounds of it, at some stage.
The very last question.
Man, this is so interesting. I'm going to talk about Riccarton, aka Gotham, the concrete jungle. There's a lot of non-permeable surfaces in Riccarton, and with the intensification that's coming up, it's going to become more frequent. And from my own knowledge, we have the Addington Brook and we've got the Riccarton Stream. When you're talking about places like Horsell, for example, which has Tukuru, has wetlands, it has great swales, there are those metro areas that don't have those. How are you going to be creating provisions around that to be able to handle that water that's going to be going into the Avon or the brooks?
So we're looking at the full range of tools, I guess, available to us, and part of that is the district plan, setting rules around on-site retention, what can feasibly be achieved realistically within, you know, reasonable bounds on an individual site for retention is limited. So that's, again, one of the reasons we're looking to put some provision in the plan, additional funding, that 19 million as a starter for us to secure sites which would be able to provide that, not anything of the scale, obviously, to Tukuru, but more like a neighbourhood-based type retention facility. Yeah. So,
but also the best way is to treat it at source to stop it happening in the first place, which is what the Christchurch West Midland Zone Committee is really driving. And also we do have that Bells Creek filter. But
yeah, from a quality perspective, that's correct. But this, the quantity one in some ways is more challenging.
It's more challenging, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant. That was very good. Okay, so now we've got Rupert and Andrew.
Through you, Your Worship, just while they're coming to the table, so we've got those extra figures. The original amount was capital in the 25-24. We had, Bill had us at 3.4% for CapEx and 2.9 for OPEX. They've upped those to 4.4 for CapEx and 4.1 for OPEX. So when you do a weighted average adjustment across all our expenditure, that's where the extra 1.1% has come from.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Right-ho, gentlemen, far away.
Oh, I can do that.
Morning, guys. Just while we get these slides sorted, we will follow on the same format as Gavin's just presented to us. And the purpose of this briefing is to address some of the resolutions that were talked about in the long-term plan that didn't quite get resolved, and now we've provided some more information back to you. And also a chance for you guys to provide some early heads up to us for matters that maybe need to be addressed for us to look forward to and go forward. I will note we are back here in a fortnight's time, and we will be we took on some advice during the LTP about visibility of candidates that are rolled up into program level. So we're going to be bringing you a list going forward with a whole heap of different things in different areas. So Andrew will touch on that at the end of the presentation on how that might look. We do have some carry forwards.
It's the capital program.
Oh, sorry, capital program. That's just outlining where the spend is over the two areas that we look to. Almost $9 million worth of carry forwards. They're basically made up of 5 key projects, which is on the next slide. And that's mostly just rephasing of projects, making sure the money's sitting in the right year. So we don't see any significant challenges with those ones.
All of those projects are in flight at the moment.
Correct. So these are the headings that were talked about in the LTP that would provide information. The first 3 have some financial impacts, and the last 2 were just noting ones for this stage. The first one is the sports network plan, goal 2. So this is basically the artificial sports hubs. And as you remember, there was quite a lot of deliberation around the codes really wanting to accelerate and bring forward the delivery of the artificial sports hubs. So what we're proposing in option 1 is that we bring 2 to 3, so basically half of the hubs, and have them delivered by June 2027, and the remaining will be delivered in 29 to 31. This does have a rates impact, as you can see up on there on the screen, for those years by bringing that money forward. But we think that's deliverable and a good outcome for the codes. Option 2 is basically exactly the same program, delivering those 3 hubs, but we are proposing that just to soften the impact on rates, that we would only deliver the artificial turfs. So we wouldn't deliver any of the natural sports fields upgrades. So it's just focusing on those things that the codes are saying that is most important to them at the moment.
Yes, through you. Yes, we can provide the dollar amounts. Yes. Yeah.
With the water stuff, we have dollar amounts, and
yeah.
Some of the percentages, and actually having some consistency so we can look at.
Yes, through you. Yes, Through your worship, yes,
No
we
problem.
can provide that. Yep, and date it.
Cool. So there are those two options around the sports field network plan. One of the other actions was the ranges. So there was some chat around increasing the number of staff, particularly park rangers, to deal with and support biodiversity and pest control. We have deliberated over this for a long time. We got advice from Paul Devlin, who's the acting regional parks manager, and we came up with two scenarios. The first one is we currently have better off funding in place, and that supports 10 rangers at the moment. And those guys are all upskilled, geared, doing a great job in the field, but that funding expires in 2027 in June. So our proposal is that instead of throwing staff at them right now, we hold off and make those full-time positions in FY27. Obviously, that has an impact to keep those 10 staff on board in that year, in 27-28. But we think that's a really good use of making sure that those rangers who have all the knowledge and the connections and the field doesn't just drop off the hill in that year. So we can keep those guys going.
Good.
Our option 2 is bring on 4 new staff immediately. So this has a cost impact of around 400K and an immediate increase in rates right now. That might help us right now, but when we get to 27, we'll still lose those 10 rangers as the better off funding has run out. We came to the number of 4 purely because to have a real impact on the pest control and biodiversity, we found 4 was the right number to make a material difference at that point.
Do you want to do questions on that?
Either that or you want to do them at the end?
Okay, go then.
There's only a few slides to go.
Okay, cool.
So, Southwest Dog Park was one that was asked if could be brought forward, and that's a straight financial implication. If you want it brought forward, it can happen and the work can be delivered and accommodated within the current work program, but there is the increase in rates there. A couple of the noting ones, the Washington Skate Park, as you recall, there was quite a passionate skate community that came and talked to us about upgrading and improving our assets so they can host national events. So staff have done that and are continuing to work with the stakeholders to lock down a scope and work on cost estimates. We don't have that dollar figure yet, and as we're still relying on a lot of input from the skate community to find exactly what that looks like. So we need to keep working with them to find the right outcome there. And Akaroa Heritage Park was a relatively straightforward one that needed a bit more information. It's a relatively small project, and we think we can deliver this. We know we can deliver this out of existing budgets from a couple of funds. So that's just no impact to rates, but the project will go ahead and get continued.
Thank you.
And Andrew, we want to just touch briefly on
we
this.
might just hold there and see if there's any questions about those specific.
Yep, got Tim, then Andre.
Just a couple of quick ones. The bringing the 4 on board now.
Are we talking the artificial?
So when we talk option 2,
rangers, sorry.
The rangers, sorry, but bring the 4 on would then negate the 10 because you'd be looking at 6 in the future, not 10. Because if you're doing 4, then 10, it's 14, not 10.
We would still lose the 10 and 27.
Yeah.
It's just,
but technically
bringing on 10 right now on top of that would be kind of.
But if you bring 4 in, you'd only be losing 6.
No,
but
well, yeah, ultimately in the maths, yes. So you bring 4 on.
Yeah.
But the 10, if you bring 4 on now, they're not going to be those individuals.
They're going to lose your jobs.
So they're going to be 4 different
they might
people.
apply.
Kind of negates the whole idea of doing it, doesn't it? Because you've got 10 people who are upskilled.
Yep.
And you've got to bring another 4 on.
Yeah. So they might apply if they're going to be permanent roles.
Yep.
So you may hold that skill.
But we're not looking
or
at
not.
but we're not looking at 14 positions. We're looking at 10 ultimately.
So the first proposal is to retain all 10 into the future.
Yes, yep.
The second option is
to bring a different 4.
Different 4 roles on
immediately.
And then when that funding dries up, it dries up.
And we'll be left with 4 instead of 10.
Yes.
But you couldn't do a hybrid of getting those 10 to apply for the 4 positions, and then at the end of that, when that comes up,
you'll lose 6 skilled operators.
Yeah, but there is a hybrid where we could look at, say, 4 now and 6 later rather than 10 later or none
just
at
to
all.
be clear, if those 4 moved on to the full-time jobs, we would either lose the better off funding for the 4 or we'd have to employ another 4.
Yeah, we'd have to.
So the debate is whether we wait for 10 and it's better to wait for that. Yeah, okay. The second one is Washington Park. With those presentations when they were made, my understanding was that they believed they had really good options for sponsorship funding for that. So is that...
That hasn't come to the fore at this point.
Okay, right. Yeah. Thank you.
Andre.
Thank you. Just on a fenced dog parks, when as I understand it, 1.5 of the skate parks in Halls were funded through development contributions. So how would they...
Skate parks? Sorry?
You're
talking skate parks?
So when skate parks were built in Halls, they were able to unlock development contributions for those. So my presumption is in the southwest for a fenced dog park, you'll be able to extract development contributions for that purpose. So I guess my question is, how does that process work? And my next one's more around...
Yeah, so look, we'd have to come back to you on that and check the DC policy.
Yeah.
On the notion that a dog park is community infrastructure and meets the requirements of the legislation, yes, you might be able to.
You collect DCs for parks and reserves, and that's at a park or reserve that it would need to go at.
Yeah.
So presumably it would be from that pot as opposed to community infrastructure. Am I correct in saying that?
I can't give you an accurate answer without checking the policy. So we'd have to come back.
Be able to check that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And just on timing, so you've come up with a figure, but obviously what would need to happen is actually identifying a site and what a potential cost would be. So I'm just sort of wondering where that figure has come from.
It's based on the existing budget that's in place.
Yeah.
So you're bringing the planning money forward.
Yeah.
So by bringing it forward, it has a rates impact on next year's annual plan.
Cool. Yeah. But yeah, if I ever find out about DCs,
yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Celeste?
Going back to the park ranger one, a few questions. So with the 10 biodiversity focused positions, what are those people doing currently? Because they're all doing quite different things, aren't they?
They're essentially a carry on of the job for nature. So no, they're all doing the same work. They're doing it in different locations. So it's a big focus on pest control and biodiversity outcomes.
So when they've finished their fixed term contract under the better funding, are they equivalent to a ranger, for instance?
Yes, essentially they're the same.
So they'd basically be rangers.
Yes,
but 10 of them. Have we looked at, because the request that came through the long-term plan in part was looking at how we can support across the regional parks, community parks, which don't really have a focused approach on pest control from what I can see. There seems to be a number of areas that aren't integrated across. So you might have red zone. So around the estuary, you've got the red zone, you've got community parks, you've got regional parks. So you've basically got what you've got with mowing. You've got 3 different people managing a bit of grass that's next to each other. And there's no actual consistent approach to doing things like predator control because you're dealing with 3 different parts of council. So part of the request was looking at how do we coordinate across all our different types of parks with one person kind of taking the lead on that. So almost like a volunteer coordinator who's an expert in the space. So have we looked at that as part of this request?
Yeah, look, if we go back a couple of slides, this response is about the exact wording that was in the resolution. There's a few new things have dropped in here about volunteer coordination. John Higgins' team has in the process of employing the staff member who's going to be the centralised across council view of how we manage pest control and biodiversity, which was a resolution that came out of the LTP. So that's happened.
Because I was one of the people that put forward the resolution. So
that's the actual resolution
Yeah, so the resolution was looking at what I was explaining, which is looking at having somebody. So the idea is that rather than just there's a lot of people that want to volunteer. So how do we get the best bang for buck for making sure that we can empower people to do it, but directing them to do in areas of high biodiversity values? Because at the moment there isn't sufficient resource, my understanding is, to get people to do that work, because the park rangers and the community park rangers are so busy doing plantings and other things that actually can't work with volunteers closely across.
They all work with volunteers every day currently.
But yeah, sure. But the request has come through in response to feedback from various stakeholders who think that there's a gap, and looking at what some of the other councils are doing. So is it possible to get more information on that aspect as well as part of this request?
You need to be a little bit more explicit as to what the question is, please.
Sure, I can send through more information.
I think, just to be clear, Celeste, your resolution wasn't this one. Your resolution was the one that John Higgins is working on, and it's been done.
I seconded
this is a different one that's gone to Park. So there's two. Yep. There was a series of resolutions. I think this one particularly came from Pauline or Mel or something. So your one, which was targeting around actually getting a cross-council coordination.
No, that's a separate resolution.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so, but I'm speaking to this one because I'm aware of because I worked with Tyrone on this one. So this specific resolution, the intention of this was to make sure that there was somebody working across council, so there was no silos, to work with volunteers around biodiversity and predator control. This is sort of enabling us to resource the organisation, but it's not targeted on a specific outcome. So there's a bit of a gap there. So what I would like to know is, as part of this, can there be an option C where we're looking at making sure that the funding continues, and also looks at putting in place somebody to work across all parts of council, regional parks, community parks, red zone, to deliver outcomes in terms of biodiversity and pest control. So
sorry, I'm a bit confused because John Higgins' team's already looking at the one that's looking across all parts of council.
It might be easier if perhaps we chatted about this later, because I think the actual amendment that went through might have been misunderstood. Because I worked with
it's quite explicitly written in the minutes, which is the one in front of us.
Except that, I think there's a miscommunication here, sorry, that says to support biodiversity and pest control. And I think that the current people are doing the biosecurity, the biodiversity and pest control. And the support part was supporting residents as opposed to doing the work themselves.
Sure.
So
and
it's
that can happen just
I think it's that interpretation thing, but there was discussion at the time.
We'll come back, and why don't you come back with what you're currently doing in volunteer programs and supporting, and what these people actually do, and some options.
A description of the person that you're in the process of employing and what their role will be.
Right.
Would be helpful, I think.
But just to be clear, the policy position is different to the request that came through around the park ranger. So I'm happy to provide some more information around what that actually looks like. Cool. Thank you.
Sarah, please.
Thanks. Two quick things. Firstly, with the I like the idea of eventually making those regional park rangers permanent. It's really important work that they're doing. What we had a few years back when we had 3 additional park rangers in a slightly different space with a different tranche of funding, and then we made them permanent. But because the decision to make them permanent wasn't until that LTP or whatever, because I think they were capital endowment fund or something, they ended up losing their jobs and having to be re-employed.
Yeah.
So if we were able, the ones
there were 2 sets. Them in permanently. No, they would put them in for 3 years because Bruce did it. Put them in for 3
it was
years
initially
capital endowment, and then
capital endowment,
full-time roles after that.
Then it
I think
became
it happened twice. The second time we did that properly because the first time we hadn't done it. So I'm just like, if we could make sure we've got the decision to do that well ahead of that 2027, so that we don't have to go through another employment process and stuff or whatever.
Yeah, well, essentially that's why we've proposed it, and we can get a decision through this annual plan.
Okay, that's cool. The Aotearoa Heritage Park, that 50,000, was that CapEx or OpEx within budgets?
CapEx.
CapEx. Okay. So what drops off?
Nothing, because it was such a small. We've got 16K from the Development Fund of Neighbourhood Parks, and the remainder from the community hard surface. So there was enough fat built-in contingency. Nothing's dropping off that, so we could deliver it within that existing program.
Okay.
Because it was only $30,000.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that $30,000, like in the scale of our budgets, 30,000 is often seen as not very much. But to have that much just kind of floating around, it's just kind of a bit.
I don't think it's floating around. We've had other projects that have come, there's little wins here and there. If something comes slightly under budget, that goes back into projects. So it's not, if it's just sitting there in no man's land, not planned for anything, it's just the way that this year's particularly worked out.
Okay.
Good answer, thank you. Jake, please.
With the skate park, are you saying that it'll take more time, but it'll be ready for the next annual plan, or it'll be another annual plan that we'll have to slot it into?
It's hard to know at this stage. It may come forward in time for this annual plan. It's currently in the stakeholders' hands. They're due to come back to council with information to help us progress.
I suppose if it's in their hands, it's in their hands. Yeah.
Councillor Johansson's been quite involved in those conversations as well, so you can get an update from him. Yeah.
And
you want me to speak now?
Yeah, far away, mate.
Oh, there he is.
All right, cool. And apologies. Yeah, you started a bit early, so sorry I missed the start. But just wanted to zoom in, obviously, on the sports and the parks update for the annual plan. So thank you for your patience. Yeah, I mean, one thing that I think councils need to be aware of is council's currently doing its place spaces network plan, and as part of that, it has proposed to remove or cancel the skateboarding, inline, and BMXing strategy. So there has been some initial conversations with the skating community around that, and there are a number of things that they've got interest in. So, I'd be optimistic that we can come up with some understanding of what's needed, but it may require a small budget to do a proper feasibility assessment. My understanding is that there will be some quite technical consenting requirements around doing a vert ramp, and so we need to make sure with whatever location we're looking at that we do kind of understand what the possibilities are. So that process is ongoing as well, and there's going to be possible public consultation towards the end of the year, which will also would be a really good opportunity to engage further with people around the specific needs for skating, but also some of those other sports as well. So.
Good. Thank you, Yanni. Right, Marcus.
Thank you. Just picking up on the Southwest Dog Park opportunity, is there a way for us to work smartly together with, say, the Ministry of Education on any old sites that might be very easily converted to act as a dog park to cover in that area?
We're always looking at opportunities where they exist. Not surprising, probably, that they want a financial return. They would want us to buy the land. There are two existing sites that are being explored at the moment. So we'd rather, I guess, eliminate those before we had to procure more land, if possible. So,
Andrew, would that be the new Gilberthorpe's Dog Park? Just saying.
Maybe the new Springs.
I don't know. Rue may know the site.
Throw that in there.
I know one of the sites, but
no, you don't have to tell me where.
So one of the reasons I asked that question is I know there's a dormant site in my neighbourhood, which would be an ideal.
We can have a look into it.
Candidate to.
It would, but they
stick a fence on it and it's there.
They want us to buy it. You just need to be aware of that.
Well, even if we could use it until they want to use it, they're not making any noises about using it anytime soon. So,
no.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Pauline. Please, we've got a couple. One more after.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit confused around the Avon, Otakaro Avon River Corridor City to Sea pathway, because it's not on the the cycle map that's down in the lobby.
Yep,
it's not on.
It's not an MCR.
No. So, what is the route?
It's as it's always been, and has been resolved on probably 2 or 3 years ago.
So it goes through to meet in the middle and then out to along the.
It goes along the river,
yeah,
winds its way through, cuts over through Avon Park,
And
around
so,
the back
and
of Kerrs Reach and out to Brighton.
2.3 million.
So that's the current phase. This is just the carry forward is a phasing and timing matter. Yeah.
And so the other one, which is the MCR, going out to New Brighton, that's sort of Pages Roadway. What's that one called?
Transport.
Yeah, transport. It's the Brent will answer the question, won't you, Brent?
I believe this was discussed in this chamber about a week ago about the naming, and we were going to prefix it with MCR instead of because they had similar names.
Might not have been here for that. Thank you. That helps a lot. So this one here is actually not named correctly. Then this is the whole shebang, both of them together. That's why I was confused.
What's in a name?
Thank you.
All right, Tyler, please.
Kia ora, guys. I'm very easy with all the options. I just have questions around damage to trees. And is there a budget that's allocated to replacement of those trees, or does it come out of other budgets?
There's a tree renewal budget.
Yeah.
That you may be aware that we have a 2-for-1 policy for any tree that's removed. 2 trees are planted, so that's effectively that renewal budget applies there. Where Toby Canny incorporates it into any of the urban forest development plan stuff as well.
Okay.
So the tree budget is
which includes on-street trees, correct?
Well, that again, that's in the transport.
Got you. Okay. Sort of trying to understand who's where and where's what. The next one is around some updates, potentially on Stockburn Park. I'm just flagging it now, just for future. Stockburn Park's one of them. And the other one is some urban forest things within the area that'll be cool to bring that forward around. I think that is me. I'm pretty sure I'm good. Oh, last one is on the artificial turfs. And Councillor Hanson brought up this quite a lot around the stakeholder engagement. So what we did in the past was refer to the organisation, and the organisation then referred to the user. Is that correct? So we never had a direct link to the user themselves around the quality of the turfs.
No, that's correct. It's managed through our sport and rec staff that work closely with the clubs and the regional sports organisations.
Okay.
And that's quite a critical relationship to make sure we have a well-coordinated approach.
I think that's a great approach. But I think one of the red flags that Councillor Hanson brought up was actually hearing it from the user's mouth instead of the representatives of that organisation. I don't know where to go forward from here, but the feedback that I've received from other councils around the country, particularly Wellington, is the difficulties with those artificial turfs, particularly around injuries and other things associated to that.
Yep.
So I'd love to see some information around what that may look like. The bounce of the ball was a niggly thing too, but we can work on it a bit more.
There's no question that it's different. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's been experienced in Australasia wide.
The technology is improving a lot though. The surfaces are getting better and they're playing international standards on artificials at the moment.
Cool to hear. Awesome. You can add that. Yeah, that'd be great. Cheers.
Yeah, Mark, please.
Yeah, thank you. Waikola Skate Park renewal. Keen to understand where that's at and where in the timing it is. Whether that's possible to bring back if it needs to be.
Probably a nice segue into that.
No, we'll just wait till we finish this.
All right. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay. We've got one last slide, which is there's another session in 2 weeks' time.
Yes.
And the guys are beavering away in the background. We're very aware that there were quite a few questions from councillors about, not being able to see what sits under a program at a program level. I'll just remind councillors that we have, and it's coming up shortly, staff will be going around all the community boards to show all the detail of the program, so the community boards can inform staff as to whether or not there are some substitutions that can be made, ideally not to the plan that we're trying to deliver, but in the upcoming years. So we'll bring the entire program all the program detail to the next session, and we'll provide it in advance. So things like Waikola and all those other things will pop up. I'm just mindful though, I did really want to seek some feedback. During the LTP, it felt like some councillors were uncomfortable with us not publishing the level of detail that some people wanted to see. If we, in the future, if we do that, it kind of negates our ability to work with you guys at the community board level to then make changes. So I'm really trying to seek some strong guidance as to how you want to progress. You know, so this is more, we don't have to make that decision now, no. But it's more about, you know, to the next LTP, if you want staff to focus on having more detail available further out through the program and it's explicitly published, that's fine. It just pretty much takes away the opportunity to make lots of community-based shuffling around decisions.
Shuffling around like community. If it's set in concrete and printed, people out there go, right, I want it. It's there. It's written. Why is it not happening? We haven't got the opportunity to play with things and move
you can
around.
Always change it, but it's going to generate a lot more.
Yeah, we're going to make bullets sort of fired back at us.
Yeah. From my point of view, I prefer to go via the community boards, and because what I kind of picked up is some councillors were kind of, there was no kind of holistic connection with the community boards. So that personally, I prefer to go via the community board than come back that way.
Yep, Mark, please. And then Sarah.
Yep, just thinking about that program level Branston building for the toilets was talked about. So
yeah, it'll come back. You'll see it. Yeah.
I think the best of both worlds would be actually to do that fiddling around before we sign off on the LTP, not signing off on the LTP and then asking for changes from the community board. I think the ideal would be to have, these are the things that need doing. We go to the community boards. You know, this is our proposed level in the LTP and where the program would sit. You go to the community boards, you involve them early in the LTP. You say, where would you prefer these things to sit in the first 3 years of the LTP? Is there anything that you think that we need to know about the community? And then that gets signed off and we don't have to go back after the LTP. And that way you're using the community board earlier in their term.
Now, because we've got
that would be my preference.
Before we start working out the process for the LTP. So
2 more and then we're gone. Tyrone, then Yanni.
My feedback is unequivocally the more detail the better.
Yeah.
I like to be able to analyse and get into the weeds. That's not for everybody, but that's for me.
No, just before we close up this, can I also just check with you whether for the 15th we can also pick up on the things that came up today, coming back with the package of the different biodiversity, whether they're in John's group or your group or anybody's group. It's much easier to see them on one picture. And we'll have a conversation with Councillor Donovan about what her desire was, even though it wasn't in the resolution.
Yep.
And bring that back, and also coming back around the DCs around the
dog parks.
Yep. And I think that was and also current volunteer program, just a bit of an overview about that. Will you be able to do that for the 15th?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yanni, please.
Oh, cool. Sorry, just some quick feedback. I'd really strongly prefer to have the specified lists of the projects at an individual level. I think one of the frustrations at a community board level is that when we're asked to do substitutions to fund something that we want to do and we don't have the program list, it's actually very difficult. Likewise, there's also been some cases through the year where funding is coming out of program budgets to do stuff that people have raised, but there's no clear process for the community to tell us what their priorities are, and that concerns me. So yeah, I'd be in the camp of let's get the draft schedules, put them into the annual plan for public consultation. And the second thing is I'd be really keen to understand a little bit more about the DC's funding and the growth greenfield projects that we put in terms of the LTP. Now, remember, I was concerned that we'd cut the funding. I think I then got advice that the funding had just been moved around into different categories, but I'm still not clear what the process is for us to access the funding. But for example, when people in my ward come into the LTP and say, we've had all this intensification and growth, but we don't see you doing any projects in our neighbourhood, can you please do some? I don't understand what the process is for us to actually get projects done in those communities that are experiencing intensification, whether it's dog parks or street pocket parks or whatever it might be. So just getting a greater understanding on that would be appreciated. Thank you.
That's it. Now, this is the last question, and it's me. We've got to be careful that we don't send staff away to do a myriad of work on a whole lot of stuff we won't read. Okay, well, some of us will. As I say, it's going to make a whole lot of, you won't be able to play around with them and move things around, sort of not behind the scenes, but just do what you guys do best. You know what you want. You get guidance from us, but you always massage things around to make the best result for all of us. So we've just got to be a bit careful that we don't put it out there and we get everyone coming along to a community board meeting and say, oh, I want, but there'll be nothing. You've got to be very strong when you go to these things and say, righto, guys, if you want this, you're not getting that because the rates are not going up, because if something goes in, something comes out. Okay? Thank you very much. Good on you. Right.
Just through you, Your Worship and councillors, this is the next steps on 15th of October. Parks and Free Waters are back, following up on today. We've got some actions in transport over there. Yeah, transport is there for coming up, 3 of them, and then through November we'll see so that's just to give you an idea. Next year, there's the proposed timetable that we're working to. And again, as the Chief Executive noted earlier on, if we can get material and questions in early, it enables us to do the budget build and to bring it back and for you to have an opportunity to look at what it will be as a package for the annual plan.
Okay. Let's go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Phil, could I just acknowledge Rupert and the team? I just wanted to just tell him that I had a few issues in Riccarton, and he addressed it in one day, just like that. He got the team down. Having that mobile parks unit in that ward is so efficient. I just wanted to acknowledge the team for that. So thank you guys so much for everything you do. Cheers.
Cheers. Righto. Now, before we break for lunch, Stefan is hiding here somewhere.
Welcome back, Andrew.
Yeah. To give us a quick update.
In a regional building consent authority to replace the number of different council authorities, district council and city council BCAs, and a single point of contact. So it's setting up a single point where builders, etc., submit their building consent plans to. And under that model, building inspections may be contracted out to existing BCAs or private consenting providers, creating competition and encouraging specialisation. So he stated that this is the start of the process and that no decisions have been made, but that these 3 options are the obvious place to start the conversations. He also acknowledged the liability part of it and the impact that has on the consenting process, and stated that the government will be looking at liability settings across the whole building system, and or the role of private insurers in the building consent process as well. MB is also going to investigate the scope of building work exempt from building consents. The timing for all this is currently unknown, but the indications that have been given by MB is that they'll, in the next coming weeks and in November, they'll be going around and talking to people and also holding stakeholder workshops. And then they aim to have a public consultation on options for the change in the first half of 2025. With then MB reporting back to the Minister and Cabinet later that year. And then the time frame for whatever change comes, if there is change, will be dependent on whatever option is chosen. So that's basically all the information we have at the moment. There is some other work that's going on with MB as well in the building consenting area that's around overseas products, remote inspections, and granny flats, which you're aware of. Council's submitted on, which closed, the consultation closed on that on the 12th of August. So yeah, it's a quick update.
Just wondering where we've heard that term voluntary amalgamation before, and then the next step is regional amalgamation, and the next step is national. So it feels like it's a journey to centralise the operation, would you say?
There's some questions yesterday in a webinar with the Minister where he did talk about there is an option to do a staged approach. So it's not necessarily one or the other options. There could be a staged approach which possibly lines up with that. He was asked about his preference. He said he's agnostic to the outcome, but maybe tending towards the central one. But really wanted to work with all the BCAs to find out the best way forward.
And they're looking for our feedback eventually, I suppose. But how would it work if it was like centralised or even one unit for the South Island? How would people actually, how would the applicants benefit from that? You'd think it would distance them more from the actual people who are granting the consent, if you know what I mean, particularly when it involves all that Q&A stuff. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I guess there's probably pros and cons of every arrangement. The benefits of grouping together or a South Island type one would be that there'd be some consistency in the way applications are made and processed. But again, yeah, there'd be different boundaries between building consenting and other council functions as well, which could be a downside for residents.
And roundabouts.
Yeah.
Okay. Samuel.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that, Stefan. I had a read of it over the weekend as well. I was just keen to see your initial thoughts on how we can be best placed to sort of take advantage of the situation. So, I mean, the thing going through my mind was we have a lot of people working in the BCA anyway.
Yeah.
We're a natural hub, not necessarily an entity, but a hub for the South Island. How do we, or maybe something that the team can take away, because we should be well positioned to kind of lead this, because there's benefit in Christchurch having sort of influence over it. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, and I think you know, like with every change, there's opportunity. And I think from our perspective, we want to be involved in as much as we can and working with MB and towards the final solution.
Yeah, because I mean, if we got to a point, you talk to some of the local, and Phil, you've probably had it when you go to different things as well. They struggle to get people to process consent. So we should almost go, how can we make it easier to work with the councils? If the government's views are agnostic, but I guess even if they're not agnostic, if we're putting our best foot forward with this kind of solution, that would be, you know, likely in Christchurch's best interest.
Yeah, and the Minister did mention that there's a lot of, I guess, informal arrangements out there already that could be formalised by this process, and that's an example of where maybe larger councils are helping small councils, or councils are sharing workloads. If one's busy, the other one's overflows to the one that's not as busy, those type of arrangements. So, yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
We're using Palmerston North for a while, was it? Yeah.
Alrighty. Sorry, Tim, please.
Yeah. So our recovery from 2013, I think that we should, you know, we are in a really good position, following what from Sam said, to be a leader here. And like you say, there's always opportunity with change. So that's really good. One of the feedbacks, though, is not about building consents. It was about more resource consents and difference of opinion from staff. So one of the things that kind of seemed to, that you might get approval for it through to a process, then it's transferred to another staff member for whatever reason, and they have a different opinion.
Interpretation.
And that is interpretation. So that is something that has been really verbalised in the feedback. So actually, it was more to do with the resource consents rather than BCs. So that's not from government, that's from outside of government. So maybe that's something that we should be looking at as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And Tyler?
Kia ora. I've got quite an interest in this. I was wondering around cost caps. So council usually have a cap in charging at certain levels, correct?
Well, we're cost recovery. So
okay. So then will that be implemented into the new organisation for whatever it may be, or is it just going to be open market, open slava?
I'm not sure. That might depend on what models comes out of the process. Depends on how that will depend on how they charge.
Okay, and this is a surefire thing that's going to be happening in flight, correct?
Sorry.
So for the minister, is it going to be implemented within this term?
I'm not sure. The timeframes, the ones I mentioned earlier.
Got you.
Yeah. So
I guess the last question is around electronic consenting. Did they talk too much into that? In terms of using iPads, etc., for assessments?
In terms of like remote inspections, yep. Or no, not in this respect over the weekend, but the minister's been quite open about his desire to move towards more a remote inspection regime, so using remote inspections more. We already do a fair bit of that through, we've got a system called Zeit, which does video inspections, so we can do video inspections with so remotely from the office or elsewhere with the builder on site, for example. And we're also just in the process of trialing another product called Artisan, which then relies on a series of photos being taken throughout the process that we can then do inspections based on that. So we're just sort of rolling that out at the moment, a trial on that.
That's great to know, because which one would come first? Our bylaws around the way that we do things, or the law itself takes precedent over the things that we do in regards to even just consenting in itself?
I'm not an expert, but I think legislation comes first.
Yeah. Okay, cool, thanks.
Tyrone.
Bylaws struggle with enforcement. Anyway.
Just in process terms, I'm just curious, is there any like data or analysis being done on like what the constraints are or the bottlenecks on the in terms of the value chain of processing building consents?
I think MB has done some work, but I'm not too sure exactly on the outcome of that. But I guess
do we do that in an organisation like here?
So we do monitor our own statistics on our part of the process, but obviously the building process is a lot bigger than what we're just part of.
That's cool. But I mean, you've got your stats in terms of turnover, but like in terms of all the stage gates of completing a building consent, do we actually know what the constraints are in terms of I don't know. I've got no idea what steps there are in a process of issuing a building consent. Yep. But as you move through it, do we actually understand what the constraints are at every stage gate?
Yeah. So we basically vet and then we process the consents, and so we know the time frame around those. So we've got accurate timings of each consent, and so we know what our response times are on each consent, and also as an average over the whole. And so we report on that, and we.
Oh, that's cool. So what's the leading constraint?
Well, there's no constraint at the moment. We're within our time frames. So
right.
Yeah. So
but what if we wanted to ramp up?
That's a good question.
Councillor Fields, one of the main constraints is the quality of applications we receive. So if they improve, we can process them quicker.
Excellent. That's very good. Thank you, John. Oh, that's cool. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? Thank you very much, mate. That's good. Yes. Thank you.
So you'll keep council posted, won't there, as we get more information?
Yes.
And we will put in submissions and potentially work directly with the MB as well to try and influence outcomes.
So Mary, this won't change our workflow, will it? We're still going to be trying to have continuous improvement with the levels of service and building consenting, correct?
Not until things change.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
All right, so we're back here at 1:15. Okay.
Cool. And apologies for the afternoon from me, guys. Thank you for letting me zoom in.
See you, Yanni.
Cool.
You're looking tired. Can't see your Henson.
Yeah, it's been a long time adjusting to the time zones. Yeah. Yeah, I was okay with it, but Melania's been staying up to 3 in the morning.
Oh no, goodness.